Welcome to For the Purpose Of, the podcast about trends, big ideas, and exciting news in the world of EdTech. I'm Keith Tramper.
And I'm Sarah Wood.
And I'm Ron Houtman. Our special guest today is Kelsey Krieger, a fourth grade teacher at Byron Center Public Schools. Today, we're going to be talking with Kelsey about how she might prepare kids to enter the world that they'll enter, not the world that we currently live in.
And we are going to kick things off with our usual question just to get us engaging in some quality conversation here and talking about what summer learning we are engaging in ourselves as EdTechs or are presenting it. And I will kick us off here and saying I am catching up on a huge stack of books that I've been wanting to get to. I couldn't even tell you a title on it because it's been pushed under other things right now, but I can tell you where that that book stack is. But also we'll be presenting at Wired TC up in Traverse City in August, as well as the iTechs in Owasso in August. And then can't forget EdCamp GR coming to you August 15th. Gonna be there.
I was gonna say EdCamp.
Yep.
So I think we might even have a commercial about EdCamp coming up, but make sure to put August 15 on your calendars if you are listening to us within our semi-geographical area here in the Grand Rapids metro area in Kent County and beyond. We'd love to have you stop and see us. There'll be more about that later. So I'm probably engaged in a couple different ways. I'm currently teaching a couple classes for the REMC Association, teaching a class at Michigan State University, and going to a professional development event pretty soon here. And I think I need to slow down a little bit. I think I've got way too many things on my plate. So I would like to take a vacation week, not just a day, a week. Keith, what are you going to do?
Whoa. I'm going to hold you to that.
That's a bold statement. Yeah, I've got some books that are on my backlog too. The one we're talking about at the REMC Summer In-Service is around disruptive thinking in our classrooms from Eric Scheninger. And he's actually going to be at our REMC In-Service. So I'm looking forward to learning a little bit about his thoughts. And I'm also working on a book called I Never Thought of It That Way by Monica Guzman. And it's so far pretty good, but I'm looking forward to reading further into it. And lastly, I get to attend the CSTA conference. That's the Computer Science Teachers Association. And that's all virtual. So I'm looking forward to that. And when it's a national conference, I'm always interested in how the heck are they going to manage time zones? When are we going to start? Because it's always a crapshoot, to see how much of it you can actually participate in based on the time frames.
Yep, I'm looking forward to hearing a few people that are going to go to the ISD conference in Philadelphia, and I wonder how they're going to get around after seeing yesterday where the entire highway system there has been cut off from basically anywhere north of where the conference center is. You didn't see this? On I-90, So they had this yesterday in I-95, a tanker truck had a fire underneath the main I-95 bridge, which if you've ever driven through Philadelphia, this is like the main north-south. So thankfully the conference center, where this happened, the break in the road where the whole highway is gone now is actually north of the conference center, but it's still going to be kind of hard getting around because where all that traffic's got to go to surface streets. So it'll be interesting to hear what happens after that. So.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep.
We'll be right back after this short message.
We have an exciting announcement for all you education enthusiasts out there. Get ready for a day of collaborative learning, inspiring conversations, and professional growth. That's right, EdCamp GR is coming to town. On August 15, 2023, mark your calendars for an event that brings together educators, administrators, and passionate individuals from all around. EdCamp GR, hosted at Kent ISD, is the perfect opportunity to expand your horizons and connect with like-minded professionals. What makes EdCamp GR so unique, you ask? Well, it's an unconference. That means the agenda is built by you, the participants. You have the power to shape the day's discussions, share your expertise, and learn from others who share your passion for education. So whether you're an experienced educator or just starting your journey in education, EdCamp GR welcomes everyone with open arms. It's a great day of collaboration where we learn from each other's experiences, discover innovative teaching strategies, and find new ways to inspire our students. Now, here's the most important part, registration. To secure your limited spot at EdCamp GR, head over to edcampgr.org. That's edcampgr.org. Simply fill out the registration form and you'll be one step closer to joining this incredible event. Trust us, you don't want to miss out on this fantastic opportunity. EdCamp GR is where you can network, gain insights, and reignite your passion for education. So gather with your fellow educators, spread the word, and let's make August 15, 2023 a day to remember.
Hey PDXers, your reflection question for this episode is, what is one way that you prepare students for a future beyond what we know right now? Tell us about it at bit.ly/FTPO-PDX. Okay, welcome back. We are here with Kelsey Krieger, our fourth grade teacher at Byron Center Public Schools. Kelsey has been a member of our KETS crew for a while, and 2 years at this point?
Yep, for 2 full years.
What does KET stand for, though?
Isn't it Kent Educational Technology Specialist?
Yes, you win a prize.
Man, putting her on the spot right away. So we're happy that you're here today with us, Kelsey, and we wanted to introduce you to our audience. So would you take a minute and kind of give us your education origin story and a little bit about what you do and why you do it?
Yeah, for sure. So I went to Michigan State to go into teaching, and I ended up going to get my master's program there too. So I did the Educational Technology Master's Program, and I actually did that in Ireland. So my first semester of that was abroad in Galway. So that was pretty awesome. It was an expedited course. So I got to do it one-on-one basically with teachers, and it definitely hooked me in. And then I have been teaching. I just finished my 6th year in Byron Center. And I actually, 4 days ago, took a new position at the 5th grade building. So I'm a 5th grade teacher now. But so I'm going from elementary to intermediate. So I'm excited for that. And I've been interested in technology since before I started my master's program. But that definitely showed me how important it was to teaching. And then I've just integrated it more and more as I've done teaching. And I like to teach people all of the nerdy stuff that I genuinely am interested in, and from the emails that they usually delete. So
that's great. And that's so cool that you're coming from the Masters of Education Technology from Michigan State. We might know a few people in our crew that also have been from there or
are currently teaching there.
Yep, Ron is my teacher.
Yep. It's a great program. So, and I also wanted to ask, so I didn't know that you had been in Ireland for part of your teaching. So are you the girl that Ed Sheeran sings about?
Oh, I so wish. We went to all the music video locations. It was definitely felt like you were in the music videos.
That's great. All right. So I want to start out with this big question. How do we prepare kids to enter the world they will enter, not the world that they're currently in or the world that we entered as adults?
Yeah, so isn't that the question, right? It's the ultimate wicked question. I think just being aware of that question is super important. I think that, we are used to the kind of schooling that we went through and the kind of schooling that is kind of displayed in the media, where we regurgitate this information and we teach kids to regurgitate it back. Where in the modernized society that, kids will enter and that we currently live in now, even that's, going to change so much more. That's just not applicable in the job market, especially with AI and everything coming out. We don't need to teach kids to memorize things. We don't need to teach them to just repeat what we have taught them. We need to teach them how to be problem solvers and critical thinkers, and to think about things that don't exist yet, and to be innovative, and also just kind of keep them always wanting to learn more too. You hear that lifelong learner. And so I think that just encouraging that mindset with them too, of not just the memorization, is so challenging, but I think it's so important just to realize that it's a thing that should happen in school.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's so important that we pay attention to what's happening right now, but also think about where that might expand, because even those little small ideas that are happening right now are the big things that our kids are going to be growing into. So yeah, very good to kind of set that mindset.
Yep. And also, Kelsey, what do you think, let's kind of build on that. What do you think are the most crucial skills and competencies that we should have our kids be developing right now as they start to live and thrive in the future world?
So it's like, that impossible task of how do you teach kids to problem solve? I come across that challenge all the time in teaching, but how do you teach them to run into something that isn't easily solvable and to keep going and to think about ways like everything that they know how to do and to try something new, like a new way of solving it. And so it's a hard thing to teach kids, but I think that teaching that mindset helps them kind of use their own unique interests and skills to get through problems. And teaching them how to collaborate with other people, I think, is super vital, especially after COVID. But it's a hard thing to teach. It's not like they have a curriculum for teaching problem solving out there. I think digital citizenship is super important to teach kids right now as well, just for their success in the future, but also just for their like mental health and like their continuing mental health. And like to be a critical thinker, to challenge ideas. We teach kids so much to, be the joy to have in class, when really what we want them to be is a student who challenges ideas and says, wait a second, is this the best way to do this? Or just to kind of be an outside of the box thinker. And so it's super hard to do that. And I think that just modeling that within your curriculum. So like, for example, I taught my fourth graders how to use Canva at the end of the year. And I gave them an option between using a Google Slide and Canva for a project. And I said, this is the first time we're using this. You can try it if you feel comfortable with it. If you don't feel comfortable with it, can play with it for a little and not try it. That's totally fine. Use what you're comfortable with, whatever you can model the best end of project with. And so I had a lot of kids end up using Canva. And so we had a kind of a conversation about it, while we're using it too, because it was a multi-day project of what we liked about it and what we didn't like about it, what it really did well for presenting wise, what might be a challenge of it. And so I think using that lingo and kind of encouraging them to be a critic of technology tools is super important too, because they're going to have to do that forever.
All right. I think, you alluded to this. I'm going to use probably a little bit different words here. I like that part about kids thinking, right? So I don't think we give kids enough time to even process their thinking sometimes, but we don't have a lot of room in our lives, and kids definitely don't have yet the skills a lot of times in the grades that you teach for introspection, right? To be able to really look at their own feelings and thoughts that they have about things. Many times they're just parroting things that they've seen here or there, or they're copying and emulating those things that they've seen, on, if it's the TikTok or the wherever it might be. So it's an interesting, I think you've got a really great place where you're with those kids. And I think, helping our kids too, you talked a little bit about it, but having kids understand that nuanced conversations is a hard thing. And having spent a lot of time with those grades, the 4th through 8th graders, for whatever reason, they get very stuck in their opinions about stuff. And sometimes I think they do it just to be contrary, and it's more than anything else, right? Instead of, thinking deeply about things and being willing to change their mind when they find out they're wrong. I think that's another real big skill in there. So appreciate sharing that. Just a side on this too, when you talk about Canva and maybe some of the other things that our students are going to be using, when you think about the huge growth of artificial intelligence applications like the Chat GPTs of the world, have you talked about this at all with your kids yet in the grade, in 4th grade, and maybe soon in 5th grade? I'm sure you will.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I kind of debated it, right? Like ChatGPT is blocked on our computers. And so you automatically think like we should ignore it. And I think that's what some people say, but they're going to enter a world where it's everywhere. They're going to see it on social media. It's there. Like, so, we talked about it a little bit. I asked them kind of if they knew what AI was, and then they kind of had some ideas out there of like little baby versions of it that they've heard about. And it's kind of a deep thing to like, they're a little bit young for that, but like for the word artificial and intelligence, like we'd have to talk about both of those words separately first. But I did show them how to use the text to image in Canva. I showed it to them when I was actually making Reading Month flyers, and I showed them, we have a space themed reading month. So there's not a lot of space aliens reading. Like, it's just not the picture I want. So I used that feature and kind of showed them how it was applicable. And then some of them used it in their pieces as well. And again, that was a good conversation to be like, what's weird about this? Why does the picture, when it gives people like 10 fingers, there's cons to this cool tool too. And so we kind of just talked about like how it's not exact and how like, a picture that they would make on their own would be more efficient with that because they know exactly what they're doing, but definitely very surface level. And I also didn't want to step on any toes or get too political with it. So just a very light intro there for mine.
Yeah, I think the thing that you're probably going to, see as you get into you're probably going to see a bunch of your fourth graders in fifth grade. That's going to be weird. As you see, I think that's another really good skill for them to understand is the ability to ascertain what is real and what is generated. I think it's going to be a huge skill for folks, especially with some of the AI stuff that I've seen about creating the fake videos, especially audio, audio tools where I can plug in, an hour of me talking can create very, very realistic audio of myself. I think our next election, I'm going to get political. I'll just tell you, I think our next election is going to be full. I mean, more than we know of generated texts and other things like that, that is really going to stretch our public, especially their understanding of what is real and what's fake. And I think we, the royal we have terrible media literacy in this country. I mean, it's just normal. People believe the first headline, the first thing they read, and they just retweet it, share it on Bookface, wherever it might be, just immediately without saying, hey, is this real? Is there any way that, the Pope wearing a giant white puffy jacket might be fake, or the space alien that's, on my podcast might not be real? Mm-hmm. So I think it's a real key skill.
We talk about that a little bit too, like in our research units, because we use, more widely, we use their computers than books. And just because of where I am, I don't get too political with my kids, but I showed them like the Wikipedia where you look up Batman and it just says like na 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 na. And I'm like, so, would this be a good research material if you're trying to find out about Batman? And so we kind of talk about how, you can use your logic to ascertain that too.
Yeah. Logic. There's your key questions.
Yeah. And I love how you talked about kind of getting their toes wet as far as using AI through Canva, because it's a little more contained in some ways as far as what you can do with that. And the AI tools they have built in are very targeted for what they can do. And I think you're kind of walking that fine line between keeping them little kids and let them enjoy and be a bit oblivious to the world around them, but also trying to make sure that they're educated people who are growing into the society that they're going to be part of, kind of going back to the beginning when Keith said, when they're ready to enter the world, they will enter. So I guess it just kind of gets me thinking, like, how do we still shelter them from all the overwhelmingness that kind of goes into using technology responsibly?
That's a great question. I think at this point, it's very kind of up to the teacher almost, right? But it's also like you think about how much they're exposed to outside of the classroom. And I think, keeping the classroom like that safe space where you teach them how to use it safely and you teach them about, good uses and not so good uses of things like this, but on their level, I don't want to say this might take over your job in coding one day. They don't need to worry about the existentialism of AI quite yet, but understanding that, with the tools they're using, the good uses and bad uses of it, I think, almost keeps them in a bubble, because if you're thinking this is a good use for Canva Write or something, this is a good use for something simple, but if you're trying to write your own opinion here, it's not going to represent who you are as a kid and your own thinking. So I don't know. It's hard to determine where that little bubble ends, though. So it's hard.
Yeah, that's so true. And I like how you said earlier when you were talking about looking at websites and, and you mentioned the Batman. I mean, totally legit right there, but I think it's just important too to remember to like constantly have that digital citizenship, those, conversations so that they start to see it as part of their life. It's not like today we're doing digital citizenship and then one and done and you don't touch it for the rest of the year, because I think that negates the importance of it and the impact that it has. And it's a wild world out there. And I think one thing I know that I struggle with as a parent, and most likely would if I were in the classroom too, trying to find that balance between screen time and let's do things without a screen. Do you have any like teacher tips on how you manage that?
Ugh, that's so tricky. When I have a sub, they're on their screen all day. I feel so bad, but I try to focus a lot on like collaborative conversation. So, my kids will do a lot of, most of their writing, most of their social studies, most of their science is on our big screen, and so with those times that something doesn't lend itself to a screen or isn't a million times better because of like you have to watch a science video, for example, I really like to emphasize how much better our conversations, like our collaborative conversations are, and not how much better we feel, but how getting off a screen sometimes can make us just feel a lot more genuine to ourselves. And we talk about that a lot because you don't want to be the guy that is just like, okay, screen time's over. Like, I don't want to be the screen time police officer. So we talk about kind of why not being on a screen all the time is good. Screens are beneficial for a lot of things. Like they make our lives easier. They make them, we can learn a lot from our screens. Like it's a great technology tool, but there are other tools in the world that are good too. And how much too much screen time is not good for you as a person, and it makes your head feel funny, and it makes you feel like you don't get enough playtime outside is what they always say. And we talk about like, your energy levels and how it kind of sucks it out of you. And I think just having those open conversations about like, woo, I think we need a screen time break. And then at the end of the year, they'll be like, yeah, we do. They're not going to be like, no, I'm still playing my thing. They'll be like, yeah, you're right. We do need a screen time break.
And those are actually so applicable to adults as well.
Yeah, I think that's how I learned to model it.
Yeah, I think you're speaking to the healthy balance of everything. We really have to think about what are we getting out of this time that I'm spending on a screen? Because it's not always just about quantity. It's also the quality that you're getting out of it. And I think you spoke to that a little.
So I know you mentioned also earlier, I think that's the joy of me being last and kind of asking questions. I can reference what was talked about earlier by Ron and Keith. But digital citizenship has been mentioned, and not wanting it to be an isolated subject that we're teaching students. So is there any ways that you have incorporated that digital citizenship into core subject areas, like when you don't necessarily explicitly teach it as like a technology subject?
Yeah, for sure. Well, like I mentioned in the research, we talk about, good uses versus bad uses. We also, every time there's a new craze that goes around, like, I don't know, like a TikTok trend or like the creepy face. I don't remember what it was called, but the like creepy face that would come up on people's computers a couple of years ago, that was a big thing. And so like, I guess this isn't really answering the question of core subjects, but I think that addressing what they're thinking about all day really quick before you move on is a lot more effective than trying to distract them from the thing they want to think about all day. So I think that we really just address those things and kind of talk about them and how like silly they are and stuff like that. But going back to your question, I think that we talk about it a little when we give their Chromebooks out at the beginning of the year. We talk a lot about how to take care of your Chromebook and how having it is a privilege and all that stuff. But when they are using tools for presentations, like when we're doing things like our top 5 books of the year, right? And they're trying to find the best picture to represent one of their books. And we're looking on the internet and we, find that when we use the Google search within the website that we're using, it oftentimes is a little bit watered down version of what we find when we look at Google, but it also is a lot more centered. And so I kind of like to talk to my kids about that, like having the whole internet at your fingertips versus the version of it that we're using for this project. So like if you Google, fish in a tree, which is a book we read together in a class, you get like, all these pictures of fish in a tree and all these pictures about equality, equity, and all of this stuff. But then if you use the Google image search within Google Slides, you'll get a lot more simplified images. And so we kind of just talk about that balance. But we also talk about, especially in social studies, and we're researching the American Revolution a lot in 4th grade. And so we talk a lot about perspective and how if we look at articles or primary resources from the Patriots side, we try to picture them like pretend you're a loyalist right now. And so we kind of try to shift perspectives even when something is based off one way. And so then I kind of like to just remind them that when they're reading anything on the internet, it's from the Patriot side or it's from the loyalist side, it's from somebody's side. And so always trying to kind of remind yourself that there's another perspective here, I think is a really nice ease into with that.
And I think that's just listening to you talk there is such a powerful way to also weave SEL into that, how you're talking about perspective taking, empathy for others, where it really amplifies that digital citizenship conversation, where it's not always about just being your best person online. It's about being your best person at all possible times. Like no one is perfect. We all have our moments, but like taking different perspectives and understanding where people are coming from might help you just have a deeper sense of empathy. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kelsey. So we like to wrap things up by asking if there was anything that we didn't get to that you were hoping to talk about.
I would love to have a definitive answer of how we teach kids to get ready for real life. But as that is kind of a loaded question, I don't know. I think we covered everything. I think that the standardized testing is sometimes an interesting debate about preparing kids for the real world versus preparing kids for a test. But I think the world is already kind of shifting with that mindset. So I'm happy.
Standardized testing is going to be really cool with GPT in everybody's pocket. Yeah. It's going to be awesome.
I wonder what kind of standardized test it would create if we asked it to write like an inclusive standardized test. I wonder what it would do.
I think you just gave everyone on the podcast homework now.
There you
go. Come up with your best question.
Oh my gosh, that was so funny.
All right. Kelsey, how can people get a hold of you if they wanted to reach out?
I'm working on building my professional social media currently. So I guess I would say my email is the best way to reach out to me. KelseySKrieger@gmail.com. IEEY.
Awesome. We just wanted to take a moment to thank you for being here today and for spending time. For those of you that are listening right now, we are like a week, maybe a little over a week after school got out. So we really appreciate you, Kelsey, coming back over your summer to talk with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it. It was fun.
That's it for this episode of For the Purpose Of. Thank you for tuning in, and a special thank you to Kelsey Krieger for joining us today. A shout out to the For the Purpose Of podcast PDX community. You can learn more about this at bit.ly/FTPO-PDX.
So we wonder, what are you doing this summer? You going to present someplace? Got any good plans? Maybe some professional learning? We'd always love to hear about what you're doing. You can send an email to us at edtech@kentisd.org. Tell us what you're up to. Did you like the podcast? What would you like us to do different, better? Rate us 5 stars on your favorite podcast app. Whatever you want to do, we're here to help you and listen. You can find all things about EdTech, especially us, at bit.ly/IamEdTech. That's one word all smashed together, IAMEDTECH. If you like For the Purpose Of, we'd love you to share it with a friend. catch you next time on For the Purpose of.
This podcast is a service of Kent ISD. It is produced by Ron Houtman, Sarah Wood, and Keith Tramper. Our theme music is Neon Nights by Scott Holmes Music, and our ad music is Vienna Beat by Blue Dot Sessions. After these messages, we'll be right back.
Oh, what was that from?